It was in the early 1990s. My club president, Dan Jones, asked me if I would photocopy the agenda with him. And I was pretty excited, but I had no idea why on earth he would ask me to photocopy the agenda. For our younger people, photocopying, I'll forget mimeograph. Anyway, so I didn't understand. I was puzzled why he would ask me to do this, but okay, I'll go along with it. He's the president. So I walk in the photocopy room, and if you were standing there in the photocopy room, you would have seen reams and reams of paper on the wall. You could smell the toner in the air, and you could feel the warmth coming off of the photocopy machine. As Dan turned to me and said, "Darren, what do you have to give?" Like, give? I'm not here to give anything. I'm here to get stage time. That's why I'm here. He said it again. "Darren, what do you have to give?" I said, "Dan, I don't understand the question. What do you mean?" He went on to explain that I was a comedian wannabe, and I came to Toastmasters as a place to work on my clean stories and material with the sole purpose of making them better on the comedy club stage. Not at Toastmasters. I didn't even know what a Toastmaster or a speaker was when I first started. I just thought it was a place to work on material. I was using you people. So it's Catholic guilt that I'm trying to give back for all that using. But I came to learn to be funnier as a place to practice, because my mentors taught me any day that you don't get on stage, Darren, is a day that you don't grow. So Dan went on to explain that he said, "Darren, you're trying to learn to be a comedian. Why don't you teach us what you've learned so far? You've read books, you've done exercises. Just teach us from what you do know." And I thought, people would want to learn how to be funnier? I thought I was the only one. But understand, what he was doing is he was asking me to do an educational speech. I had never done an educational speech. I was always trying to be funny and entertaining. Think about it. In the comedy clubs, it's very easy to see the difference between success and failure. In a comedy club, you're either laughing or you're not. As a speaker, people could be contemplating, they could be deep in thought, listening and thinking about their lives while they listen to you. Or they could be working on their grocery list. You don't know. But at a comedy club, difference between success and failure, everyone in the room knows. So he asked me to do an educational speech. But I thought, okay. I took and looked at the best exercises I had ever worked on and done that helped me the most. And I put together a 10-minute training on how to be funnier. So I stand in front of the audience and I teach what I learned the hard way. And people were taking notes. I thought, how rude. I'm working here. See, you don't take notes at comedy clubs. This was so different. And for the first time in my career, comedy or Toastmasters, people came up to me and thanked me. That was kind of cool. In fact, it went so well that Dan, as the club president, invited me to do a breakout session at a Toastmasters district conference. What's a district conference? I didn't know. I had never been to one before. I was just in my club and this club and that club and speaking as often as I could. So I had 6 months to work on this. And at that time in my comedy career, I'd become an opening act. And I was getting maybe $50 a set. And that was like hitting the lottery. But I'm still only doing 5 minutes. At the comedy clubs, I'm doing 4 or 7 minutes. Same at Toastmasters. So he asked me to do a breakout session for an hour. An hour! That's like 53 minutes longer than I'd ever done. So I thought I would team up with a friend of mine who was a comedian and a Toastmaster as well. And this was my buddy Gary. And Gary was more nervous than I was. So of course, I made him go first. So Gary was in front of the room teaching the beginning of the breakout session. Meanwhile, I was standing in the back of the room, all consumed with me. What are they going to think of me? What was I thinking? An hour? This is crazy. Will I remember my lines? Will they like me? Will I get good evaluations? Will I ever be asked back? I was self-consumed with what they would think of me. Meanwhile, Gary, in the middle of his presentation, froze. It was that uncomfortable. I'm sitting in the back of the room thinking, someone should do something. At that moment in my career, everything changed. Because I got more adamant that the audience walks away with something than what they thought of me. For the first time, I had let go of me and my ego, and I got more adamant that they had a takeaway. I carefully pushed Gary aside, and I took over. And I became passionate about what the audience left with. When you can do that in your career, everything changes. It's not about you anymore. Raise your hand if you want to look good when you're on stage. Let it go. That's your problem. It's not about you. And on that day when I walked forward, everything changed. In fact, it went so well that when I was done, the meeting, there was a woman who was from the New England Recruiters Association, a meeting planner, came up to me. She's a fellow Toastmaster, and she said, Darren, I would love you to be the keynote speaker at our national convention coming up. And then she asked me the question, how much do you charge? Charge? I didn't know which way the money was going. I thought, well, I thought I had to pay for that. I didn't know. It was new to me. But I had just started hearing that in the professional speaking world, you guys earn a lot more. They pay a lot more. A lot more. So I knew I was getting $50 in the comedy clubs. I started calculating as quick as I could. I nurtured up as much courage as I could. I looked her dead in the eye and I said, 75. Her face went flush and I'm thinking, 65. I found out that the comedian who did the same conference the year before got $1,000. And people said, Darren, you should have got $1,000. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's even more pressure. $75, 1 hour solo by myself. I didn't sleep or pee for a week. And I tell you that because that's where I started. Right in a Toastmaster club. Not even realizing what I should be talking about. I was there for me. I wasn't there looking inside me and taking inventory. Even though I was only a half a step ahead of everyone, I still had something I could help them with. Because of my experience, because of my studying. So I'll leave you with 3 things real quick. My dad, who's a super quiet guy, super nice guy. You might have heard it if you've heard my acceptance speech. He said, I don't care what you want to be, Darren, just be the best. So I say to you, be the best. It's a choice. Jackpot will help you get there. And some of you heard the story of Vinny, when he had me in the back of a comedy club and told me, if you ever turn down stage time, I will never help you again. But he said something else that night that meant even more to me. I asked him a serious question. I said, Vinny, how do you know who's going to make it? He said, that's easy. Whoever keeps going. Will you choose to keep going. After you fail, after you bomb, after the corporate presentation doesn't go so well and they don't clap. And my final question for you is this. If Dan, my mentor, was here right now, my club president, he would ask you, and I ask you, what do you have to give?